All right, let's talk about protein synthesis. I'm going to go through the vocabulary words and make sure that they are defined for you in context with all of this protein synthesis stuff. So the first word we're going to look at is central dogma. This is just the idea, the concept behind how information goes from DNA to protein, because we know that DNA codes for our proteins, but the central dogma kind of looks at how that happens. So one of the way I draw it always is we start with the information being in the DNA. We know that's where all of our genetic information is. And then there's a process, which we'll look at in a minute, that changes that information into RNA. And remember, RNA is just another nucleic acid that is similar to DNA but has some different properties, which we'll go over again in class a little bit. And then from RNA to protein, there's a second process. So this is the central dogma. And behind those arrows, really, is the process, from DNA to RNA, it's transcription. And to go from RNA to protein is called translation. Now, this is the central dogma. It's from DNA to RNA, from RNA to protein. The idea that information, genetic information, goes from DNA to protein in this path. And it's always in this path. Now, I need you to know some additional details about transcription and translation. These are two processes that make up protein synthesis. And it has to be in this order. All right. And you need to know where they occur. Transcription occurs in the nucleus. And obviously that's in eukaryotic cells. And that's all we're really going to talk about with protein synthesis. In prokaryotic cells, it's just a lot more simple, but less relevant to us. So transcription occurs in the nucleus, and that makes sense since DNA is in the nucleus. Anything involving DNA is going to have to take place in the nucleus. And then translation occurs on the ribosome, and if you recall, protein synthesis occurs on the ribosome. So anything that involves that protein is going to happen, or is going to have something to do with the ribosome. So notice that you have two different locations. You've got the nucleus and you've got the ribosome. That's why there are two different processes, and RNA is the messenger, okay? And in fact, we have three different types of RNA, and the one that is going to be translated into protein is called messenger RNA. But there are three types of RNA that you need to know, and you need to know their function. So there's mRNA, that's messenger RNA. So that is bringing the message from the DNA to the ribosome. And then the ribosome can read that message in the process of translation to make the protein. And we'll look at that in more detail. The other type of RNA is tRNA. This is transfer RNA. Transfer RNA brings amino acids to the ribosome. It's like the transport system. It's who brings the ingredients to the ribosome to make those proteins. And if you recall, proteins are made up of amino acids. So we need all of those ingredients for making proteins. tRNA is the molecule that's going to bring those proteins to bring those amino acids to the ribosome. And the ribosome, reading the mRNA strand, will put those amino acids into the correct sequence. The third type of RNA that you need to know is ribosomal RNA. It really is just part of the ribosome. And it helps with protein synthesis. Okay, so those are your 3 types of RNA that you need to know. There's actually quite a few more different types, but we're not getting into those while they're still interesting. They're not necessarily part of protein synthesis. Okay, so these are just some of the details that you need to know for central dogma, and in the next video we're going to go through the processes of transcription and translation in more detail.